All right. So same way we always start the show. But if you had to describe your life story and maybe like the 3 to 5 significant bullet points. So name if you want to tell me your name, where you're from, and then how you got to a Zoom chat talking to a stranger today. How would you do it?
My name is Jeremy Taylor. I am from Melbourne, Australia. Originally born in Western Australia. Grew up in country towns. So like I would describe it like the deep south of the United States. Um, Financial planner by education and by recent occupation. Decided to take a career break last end of last year, and looking to transition into venture capital private equity. I'm a father of two kids, 8 and 4, which keeps me busy. And I'm a member of the Iron Council, which is how I got to be here talking to Tyler.
Perfect. Yes, Iron Council is a online men's group, I guess, trying to one up their lives and become better humans, right? So big fan of that. I've been in that for about a year. And how long have you been in the IC for?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Okay. Very cool. And then if you could extrapolate out the next 5 to 10 years of your life, so where do you want your story to be then? Any significant events or dreams you got on the horizon coming up?
Yeah, I'd like to have a venture capital firm up and running, or be working in venture capital. Um, I'll be close to 50 then. I know I don't look it, but I'd like to have some form of financial independence at that time, where I'm working because I want to, not because I have to.
That is the way to be. Yes. It must be all the Vegemite. That must be the trick to looking young,
Abs-
right?
that's exactly right. We feed it to our kids from a young age.
Right. I thought that stuff was like peanut butter and I put it on one of my like toasts or whatever. Way too much. It was like
Yep.
way too much sodium for one day, 1 week, 1 month. I don't know. Yeah.
Less is more with Vegemite.
Less is more. That's what I learned quickly. Yes, that is what I learned. So cool. All right. So we got a smattering of questions today. You kind of randomly chose some of the fun, would you rather, COVID and deep. So we'll kind of go a couple in different categories. So this should be a good one today. The first one from the fun, absurd question list is going to be if you could be any cartoon character, who would you want to be?
This is showing my age, but I would want to be Astro Boy.
No idea who that. You got to explain that one.
So
Yeah.
it's a Japanese cartoon from the
Oh,
late 70s, early 80s, where the story is a scientist's son dies. He recreates him in the form of a little robot called Astro Boy,
okay.
and he goes around doing Astro Boy robot things. The reason I want to be Astro Boy is
Right.
he shoots bullets out of his butt.
Out of his butt.
That's
Okay.
out of his
Yes.
butt. Yep.
That's hilarious. If you ask like 10 people in Australia who that is, would they like 10 out of 10 know who you're talking about? Or is this like a very niche,
Four out
like
of 10.
40% of the population?
Depending on age. Depending on age.
Okay. The rocket butt thing lost them, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not everyone was up and watching that. That's interesting. I'm trying to think of the equivalent in the maybe like Dexter's Laboratory. That might be the one that we watched as kids, where this is like a young scientist and he's always making creations and stuff like that in his labs. That was a good one, but very cool. Okay, I like that answer. Question two is gonna be who's the worst character in TV history?
Joffrey Baratheon.
Nice. That I would fully support that. Yes.
I would have killed him myself.
That's right. What like house or whatever do you think you would have been in if you could?
Stark. I definitely a
Stark, yeah.
Stark.
Okay.
Yep.
You're a northern guy, but you
Yeah,
live in
exactly.
Australia. Yeah, so you
Yeah,
don't
well,
get too much
true, true.
snow.
Oh, I should probably be Dawn then,
Yeah,
shouldn't
you
I,
should be
living in
Dorn.
Australia?
You should
Yeah,
do be a
yep,
good Dorn guy.
yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Joffrey, that's a solid one. I can't think of anyone worse.
And it's such a credit to the actor as well, in that I think he cops it every time he goes out in public. Like you're
Mhm.
terrible, you're terrible. That's this hallmarks of great actor. If
Yeah,
people cannot disassociate you from your character, you're doing your job.
I like that. Yeah, the amount of hate you get in real life, that's how good of an actor you are. That's
Yep,
that's a rough one. Yeah.
yep.
Tom Hanks must have it really nice because everyone loves Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
He's
exactly,
always the
exactly.
good
Yep,
guy, just the clean cut, whatever guy. Yeah.
yep.
Joffrey. Yeah, I don't know even know if he's been in. Has he been in much other stuff? But
I don't think
yeah.
so. I think he was in a movie. I think he might have been in Master and Commander,
Okay.
that Russell Crowe movie from years ago. But yeah, I think he's just dropped off the radar, and he's
Yeah.
probably going to college or something like that and doing all the right things. So
Sure. That's probably true. Yeah. I know it's got to be tough for guys like Daniel Radcliffe that are Harry Potter and stuff like that. Like Daniel Radcliffe can be in 1,000 more movies in his lifetime. He's always Harry Potter. I mean,
oh,
that's
Harry,
literally all he's going to be. He's got
correct.
to have a
That's
wand and
exactly right.
he's got to have a scar,
Yeah,
or else I'm not even
yeah,
interested.
yep.
There's no chance. So,
Rupert Grint. Every time I see him, I'm like, oh, there's Ron Weasley. It's
mhm,
like, yeah, I'm sure he's played a million other characters, but
I
he's always
know.
Ron Weasley. So
That's gotta be rough for them. They're just like they're destroyed by their success in a weird way. Like they're so good at this one character, now they can't be any other character, which they must hate, but like they did so good, I don't know.
yep,
It's
yep.
interesting. But interesting. Okay, we'll skip a couple here, but I like this one. This is one of my favorites. What do you wish was socially acceptable that is not currently or looked down upon?
I'm going to be very controversial here.
Mm-hmm.
Using the C word,
Ah, okay. Yes,
I
that's interesting.
I think it's very appropriate at
Right. At certain
certain points
points.
in time. Yep,
Yes, 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 yes. That is a big one. That's like if you look like poll people, like what's the worst word you could use? That comes up a lot.
yep,
It
yep.
comes up a lot in multiple countries and everything. In the US, it's probably the F word. I don't know if it's necessarily, I mean, we can cuss on this. But yeah, that's another big one too. For me, I've probably said this several times, but I always wish like skipping was more socially acceptable down the street. As an adult, I feel like it's such efficient form of locomotion,
Yep,
but
yep.
we're not allowed to skip unless you're like 3 years old or five, whatever, how old you are. So that's my big one. But
I
if I
like that.
could skip down the street while using the C word, that would be my ultimate day right
Perfect,
there. That's
perfect. That's
perfect.
exactly right. Exactly right. And going back to the Joffrey Baratheon
Hmm.
question, the character is the quintessential definition of a sea. So
Ah, true. Yes, yes, yes. Just yeah, all the petty things you could possibly do, all the revenge, all the anything. Yeah, he'll be doing it. So okay, yeah, that's a good way to surmise his career in that. Yeah. The last fun question is going to be if you could have anything named after you, what would you want it to be?
a town, Jeremyville.
Jeremy. Ah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, and
I feel
it's
like a lot of
it's
people
got
have
a
had
nice
that
ring to it.
urge before.
Yep,
Yeah, I'm
yep.
sure there is a Jerryville somewhere. Yeah, there's probably hundreds in Australia, I'm sure. Um, yeah, I don't know what I would want. Maybe like a mountain, like Mount Everest, the something like that, some mountain range, the Smith Range, my last name. I don't know, but that would be cool. Or something on like the moon.
Yeah, I like
Some
that.
yeah, either a star maybe or some
One of
celestial body. That'd be cool.
one of Jupiter's moons, or
Jupiter's moons, yeah, instead of
yeah,
Titan or whatever
yep,
or Europa, it'd be I don't know, something with my
yeah,
last name.
exactly. Tyler Smith,
Tyler
perfect,
Smith.
perfect ring to it.
There's enough stars in the universe to get me my
Exactly.
own star. Come on, let's be
That's
real, guys. These
that's
astronomers
exactly
need to
right.
start just dishing out. People would like astronomy more if they had something named after them.
There
You
are
know,
infinite stars. There are 9 billion people on the planet. The maths works out.
the math checks out, and you're the
Yep,
financial guy, so I gotta
correct.
trust you
That's
on the math.
abs.
That's right. Cool. Well, you have survived the fun rounds. We are now into the would you rather's. So let's give a couple of these a shot. First one's gonna be: would you rather be a famous musician or famous athlete?
Famous athlete.
Famous athlete. Okay.
Yep.
In what sport?
Basketball.
Basketball. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. You grew up playing that, or is that something you
Grew up
picked up later?
grew up playing basketball,
Okay.
and have a love for the NBA,
Hmm.
which a lot of Australians do. There's a reasonably strong national league down here as well. We get a lot of guys, Americans that don't make it at a professional level,
Right.
come down and play. There was the Newcastle Falcons
Wow. I
were
studied
were,
abroad
were
in Newcastle, Australia.
yep,
So
yep,
yeah,
yep.
very good. I didn't.
So yeah, basketball.
Okay. The Newcastle Falcons. Awesome. I'm trying to think if there's any Australians in the NBA. Are you aware?
Josh Giddey.
Josh
from
King. Okay.
Oklahoma City.
Okay.
We don't we've disowned Ben Simmons.
Right. Oh,
Um,
wow.
yep.
That's
It
funny.
was born he was born in Melbourne.
I didn't know
Paddy
that.
Mills, Paddy Mills from the net at the Nets
Okay.
is Australian.
Very
There's
cool.
a couple of others as well
I
whose
think Michael
names go.
Jordan, I think he was born
Hey, I'm abs
Sydney. I think he was born in Sydney.
Sid,
Yeah,
yeah,
actually.
correct. That's right. We've always been dirty that Michael chose to represent the US
I
and
know.
not Australia
That
at the
was
Olympics.
that
So
was messed up by him. I'm not gonna hold him. Yeah.
Kyrie Irving was born in Melbourne as
Really?
well, but
Oh, that's cool.
you guys can have him.
Yeah,
We won't take Kyrie.
he's gone off the rails a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. I know there's some big blockbuster trade that was it Durant might go to Mavericks or something. Yeah, I don't know if that happened, but they're talking or something. But interesting. Okay. Next, would you rather? Would you rather go 30 years into the past or 30 years into the future?
Into the future.
Future. Okay. So that's
Love.
good. You're bold on the future. You're thinking there's
Yep.
gonna be a future, not World War
Yep.
Three and everything.
Always always got to be positive.
Okay.
Control the controllables. And I'm just fascinated to see where we get to as a species. You know,
Right.
whether we're on Mars in 30 years' time, or you know, we've all subsumed ourselves into robots.
Mm,
Whatever. I've always had a love for tech, sci-fi, all these things, and I'm just fascinated as to what we do in the next 30 years.
right. I absolutely would say 30 years in the future would be great. So my dad's black, my mom's white. So whenever I ask my dad this, he's like, always future. Like black people don't go into the past.
Yep.
That's not
Yep.
an option. Yeah, the farther you go, the worse it gets, right? It's for any minority. So he very quickly can answer this question. But I too look forward to becoming a cyborg one day and would love to just make that happen. Chat GBT is this whole big thing now. So I think the AI is pretty close to becoming conscious. So it's gonna happen.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see how
Yep.
that goes. I would just love to.
I think my generation's been tarnished by the Terminator movies in
Yeah,
relation to artificial intelligence. But like any anytime someone says Chat GPT, my mind goes to Skynet. Skynet's
right,
going to take over the world and
right.
launch Judgment Day. So I need to wash that out of my system. So
Yeah, I don't think many people in the millennial. I mean, everyone knows of Terminator, but I haven't even sat down to watch the full thing. I've probably seen it on airplanes, bits and pieces, but I don't think I've proper sat down and watched the entire thing. So I think there's just enough, time that we're gonna produce all these things for better or worse, and
yeah.
it'll be one thing. If you like the future and this kind of stuff, have you ever seen Ex Machina, the movie?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
I figured
fascinating.
I figured you
Loved
would
it.
like it. I think it's one of the
Loved it.
best ever done.
Yep.
Alex
Yep.
Garland is a phenomenal
Yep.
director, so
Yep.
I can't speak highly enough of Ex Machina, but I thought you would enjoy that. Yeah, cool. Next and last, would you rather is going to be: would you rather go blind now or be blind from birth?
Ooh, blind from birth.
So you don't want to know
Big
what you're missing.
don't exactly. You know, going blind now, you know what you're missing.
Yeah,
Blind from birth, it's you only know what you know.
that's an interesting philosophy in general, because then you're discounting all the experiences you've had with eyesight
Yep.
up to
Yep.
now.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but do you take those to mean, yeah, that's, see, I think about that too when it comes to like just the frustrations we have in the modern world. So, another one of the questions is, would you rather, I think, would you rather be a king in the 18th century or upper middle class now, right? So the kings in the 18th century thought they were living the best lives. Obviously, they probably were at the time, but they didn't have AC, they didn't have internet, they didn't have all these things, right? So
They died at 30 from a bad cold as well. So
yeah,
give me upper middle class today,
right,
any day of the week.
right. Because, but I'm trying to like relate that to the blindness good thing, because like I feel like if that was consistent, you would actually choose the king thing, because then you wouldn't have any idea
Yeah, yeah,
of what you're
yes, yeah, yeah,
missing by
yes. Good
modern
point. Good
technology.
point.
If you
Good
were
point.
blind from birth versus if you live now, you would know. So I'm just, just pointing out you're being very inconsistent. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, because I think that's tough. But I think about that a lot. I'm like, what do I take for advantage now that like they didn't have 100, 200 years ago? But like also like it's just the things we're dealing with now. I work in healthcare, so like the amount of low back pain we see and knee
Yep.
pain, like why we can't just inject somebody with something and they walk out 100% stem cells, boom, you're done. Never have that pain again. In 50 years, we're gonna have that. So it's like, man, it kind of sucks that we're in this weird time where it's like we can't even solve back pain, but we can send guys to the moon. It's kind of weird,
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
so it's a very, yeah, but I like elaborating people's philosophies when it comes to that. But I see what you're saying. Blind from birth. Yeah, that's very interesting.
I guess it's probably biased by the fact that I I am sight abled,
Right.
or I can see. So
Yeah.
I you know I know what I would be missing. Whereas
Yeah.
from birth you don't know. Your experiences are your other senses are heightened, but
Hmm.
you wouldn't necessarily be missing out on something because you didn't. Well, I guess sorry, you would,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't know what you were
You
missing
wouldn't
out on.
know.
So
Right. I would love to ask that to, yeah, people that have actually gone through that. I mean, just to see, what that take for them would be like, if that's something they're happy that they got to experience even a little bit, or it kind of goes back again to the movie Arrival for me. I always like sci-fi and stuff like that, but the main actor has a child with cancer, and the kind of thing is like, if she can go back and not have the kid at all and see her die tragically of cancer, would she do that, or would she still have the kid anyway? And what's
yeah.
the more like, noble choice or whatever. So good movie that's kind of playing on that same theme. So Arrival, another very good one. Cool. And then next category, you survived the would you rathers. Moving along to COVID, a couple of these, and then we'll get some deep ones. So this first one is going to be, where would you be now if the pandemic never happened? How did it interrupt your plans?
I would still be working in financial advice.
Hmm.
I think for COVID for me, it forced us to work from home. It provided, which was a great thing, because what it did for me is it provided the opportunity to have that hybrid working model where, up until COVID, I was basically a transit passenger in my neighborhood. Like I'd leave at 7 in the morning, get home anywhere between 5 to 6 o'clock at night,
Hmm.
and that they were my interactions. I didn't know. My wife would be doing most of the school drop offs and the like,
Hmm.
and you saw your neighbours on weekends, but that was about it. With COVID, working from home, being able to do school drop off, I know people. Like I feel like a part of my neighbourhood, which is fantastic. You
Right.
go up to the local coffee shop and you know people. It feels like a small country town now.
Hmm.
Um, Also, it created that break for me to, from a career perspective, to go, do I really want to be doing this for the next 25 years?
Right.
Or is there something more else out there that I want to achieve?
Hmm. I think that's the blessing of COVID, is that everyone had to stop. The world literally stopped almost, and everyone had to think, am I going the right career path? Am I going to the right school? Am I doing all these things? Am I seeing my friends enough? Am I talking to my parents enough? We don't
Yep.
realize how much we're connected. And I think that what you just said about it, social isolation in a weird way brought you even more connected to your community, is what it sounds
Yep.
like. So it's
Yep.
almost the exact opposite of what you'd expect after, having such strict isolation in Australia.
Yeah, because we were, so the isolation varied state by state in
Mhm.
Australia, but so the experience in Melbourne was, you could only go out for four things: food, so you could go to the supermarket; a medical appointment. If you're an essential worker, you could go to, so police officer, fire firefighter, so on and so forth,
Mhm.
and exercise. You could walk up to your local coffee shop, get a coffee to go, or takeaway as we call it in Australia.
Right.
So you could do all that, and that's where you got that sense of community. Like you saw the same people on your walks
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. And it yeah, perversely, it localized um, a, a lot. a lot of communities, which was a
Mm,
truly wonderful thing. Because you're right, the path we were going on was just, that your house is a place where you just sleep.
right.
You do everything outside of your house. You work, you eat, you so on and so forth. Whereas COVID, it was like, well, no, you've got to remain in your community, and you
Mm,
get to know your
right.
community. So
Yeah, that is awesome to have that, kind of realization and seeing the same faces. And then that definitely makes a difference when you're reaching out to people and everything. That's funny. Yeah, I was thinking the four essential things is like, what are you allowed to do? You're allowed to leave the house to get Vegemite. You're allowed to leave the house to like, oh,
yeah,
that's all you're allowed to
correct.
do.
That's
Just
right.
get
That's right.
Vegemite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chase a
Yep.
crocodile, and that's about it. Most people do that. Okay.
Clear the snakes out of your shoes,
Yeah.
from out the
Scorpions.
out
Yeah.
out by the door. So
Yeah, that's funny. Okay. Next COVID question is going to be, what skill do you think was most useful to survive the pandemic?
resilience,
Resilience. Okay, so soft skills. I like
resilience.
this.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Why do you think that was important?
Because it was, particularly in Melbourne, we were always on tenterhooks as to when's the isolation going to stop. So
Mhm.
our governor, the governor of the state, will do a weekly press conference, and it you kind of be on tenterhooks as to what's he going to say.
Mm,
Is it it's getting to the end, or is it continuing? So,
mhm.
and I found for the first month or so it was okay. We'll get through this. This is great. This is just a temporary stop in life, and we'll move back to it. After 3 months, you kind of like, is life ever going to go back
Right.
to normal? And I think, you needed that resilience just to say, look, this too shall pass.
Mm,
What it passes to, we don't know. We can't control that. Just live in the moment, be resilient, do what you can do, control what you can control,
mhm.
and live the best possible day you can live. So
That's very, yeah, I like a lot of what you said in there. I do tend to find I lean on stoicism for a lot of my personal life philosophy. So control the controllables and then just kind of roll with the punches. It's stoicism is very much like akin to a Buddhist philosophy as well, meditative and kind of same
yeah,
thing.
I like the. I'm with you, Tyler. I love the
Mhm.
stoicism, and I delve into Buddhism
Oh,
as well.
cool.
I find the lessons from Buddhism are wonderful lessons. You don't need to
Mhm.
be spiritual or religious
Right.
to take something from them. They're just good lessons. I mean, like the chop wood, fetch water thing. It's just that just
Mhm.
continually do the non-negotiables, the
Yeah.
little things. So
Resilience. That is, I don't know if I have a better answer than that. I think that is a really good choice in terms of just, being able to survive and mentally get through the tough hardships of life. Is best to have some kind of operating system like Buddhism, like
yep,
Stoicism to fall back
yep.
on. So cool. Well, that was the COVID. We're gonna move into the final category, the deep questions here. About maybe 15 minutes left in the show. Let's hit as many of these as we can. The first one's gonna be, what is your definition, or what do you think is a good death, quote unquote, good death?
Dying in your sleep
Okay.
peacefully.
Ah, peacefully. Okay. I would have taken this like, what's a noble death? I like yours. Like, I want to
Yep,
die pain free. Yes.
yep, yep. Go
Yeah.
to sleep one night and not wake up.
Yes. Have you known somebody that's had a quality death like that? If you want to talk about it.
Yeah, a former client of mine.
Hmm.
So it's a funny. Sorry, it's not a funny story.
Right.
It's a story for me that put the stark contrast of or the shortness of life into full perspective. So his name was Chris. He had just recently retired. I
Hmm.
was about 60, 61, 62. Should have had a full retirement. The male life expectancy in Australia is 84. So,
Okay.
was expecting to have 20 years of enjoying the fruits of his and his wife's hard work.
Hmm.
Went to sleep one night, had a heart attack, couldn't be revived. I think I'd like to go that way, not being in pain, not
Right.
knowing that you were going. Flip side of that is I feel for Chris, and I feel he was cheated out of a retirement as
Hmm.
well. Like, it's, yeah, tomorrow's never guaranteed, is it? And
Right.
you can working hard your whole life, thinking that I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor in my later years. Some people don't get there. So for
Right.
me, it kind of changed my perspective and changed my the way I provided advice as an advisor. It was, rather than going, okay, Tyler, well, you need to save every single penny that you've got, because that's going to
Mm,
make sure that you've got a sustainable lifestyle in 40 years time. It's like, well,
right.
Tyler, you're 31, you've
Right.
got lots of living to do. Have one bit going to retirement, one bit savings, one bit here, one bit there. So
Right.
it's about finding, it's not being on one extreme completely hedonistic and spending every single penny
Sure.
or more, going to credit card debt, not being the other extreme and being saving every single penny that you've got. It's just finding that right mix for you. So, and I've gone completely off tangent around a good debt,
No,
but
that's
yeah. So the good debt for me is that peaceful, just
yeah.
sail off into the sunset.
That's I mean huge because like I said, I'm a big kind of fan of the whole choose financial independence movement. It was kind of big popular with index funds and retiring in your 30s and all that kind of stuff. So some of that can go off the railings though, when you're just your saving rate is 90% and then you never go on vacation and all this stuff,
Yep.
living for this moment where you hit this threshold where you can live off interest for the rest of your life. And what if you die? So like there's been some podcasts where they had the guy Bill Perkins who wrote Die with Zero on about just optimizing for life fulfillment and not just for net worth. And I think that's
Yep.
extremely important to think about, because you're only going to be 30 once, right? So, um,
That's exactly
Bill
right.
Perkins, I want to read that book for sure, but Die with Zero is what that one is. Next deep question is going to be, what is the biggest thing that held you back in your 20s and how did you overcome it?
Fear, fear of failure,
Fear of failure. Okay.
fear, fear of failure. So
Yeah.
I didn't do a lot of things in my 20s that I now wish I'd done. How did I overcome it? By realizing that, well, acknowledging that I had regrets, and
Mm,
if I didn't want any regrets, then you've got to go out and do stuff. And you know what? If you fail at it, what's worse, trying and failing, or never trying,
right.
and having that. What if I did this? What if I did that? So there were
Mm,
lots of things in my 20s that I didn't do because I didn't think I was ready, didn't think I had enough money, didn't think, so on and so forth, and I just should have done it.
yep. I think that's big, but to realize that and then to take that mindset, I think is so important to just what's the worst thing, A, what's the worst thing that happened? And then B, living your life in such a way that most people regret the things that they didn't do than the things that they did do
Yep,
at the end of
yep,
life, right? So if
yep.
you poll people, so it's a good perspective to have while you're kind of fearing something is actually I would probably regret this if I didn't even try. So
Yeah.
uh,
The biggest example for me is, so being part of the old British Empire, the Commonwealth now. So Australians, Canadians have the ability to go work in the United Kingdom for
okay.
2 years on a working visa. Something
Mm,
I always wanted to do. Never, just always had that fear that I didn't have enough money, or I wouldn't find the right occupation, so on and so forth. And
right.
in hindsight, the money would have sorted itself out. I would have found a job, whether it was being a bartender or some job. It would have, and if I had gone for 6 months and it all fell in a heap, at least I
Right.
would have gone.
I mean, you could have been the financial advisor for the queen. I mean, that would have been
It's
great.
exactly right.
She's
It's
got a couple
exactly right.
$1 billion to throw
Yeah,
around.
she
I
she
mean, you
does.
got a
She
lot of
does.
work to do there. So yeah,
Exactly. It's not a easy job.
not an easy job. Balancing her
Feeding
books would
those
be very
corgis.
hard. Yeah, feeding
Yeah,
the corgi.
I imagine the pet food bill in
Oh my
at
gosh.
Buckingham Palace probably far outweighs some
Yeah.
households' total grocery bill. So
RIP. I mean, speaking of peaceful deaths, I think she had a pretty good one ultimately,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Whatever,
Yep.
96 something years old
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in the sleep. Let's go. That's the perfect death that you want. That's awesome.
She, I think she deserved that. She
Uh,
deserved that death in terms of
right,
just um, sailing off into the sunset gracefully. I know
right.
there's a lot of controversy around the royal family and colonialism
Sure,
and post-colonialism and the like,
sure.
but yeah, it is what it is. It's
Right.
yeah,
That's a good point. We're bumping up on the 10-minute mark, so we'll try to get a couple more of these in. I do like this one, especially with the financial guy on the podcast. What kind of life-changing item can you buy for less than $50? Yeah,
a notebook to track all your expenses.
there you go. Spoken like a true financial advisor. I like this. Yeah. When did you think you started building that habit into your life? In your teens,
It was
20s,
actually
30s?
in my 20s, and it was my
Oh,
wife, or then girlfriend, now wife, that introduced it to me. I was, you know, up here with,
right.
the high level concepts, and she's like, budgeting is, I write down every expense, and
Hmm.
we did that. We recorded it and then tracked it, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm spending six
Yeah.
hundred dollars a month on entertainment or something like that, and you're like,
Hmm.
well, I would need to rein that in. That for me, that was the big eye opener. If you don't track it, what is it? If you don't
What
track it,
doesn't get
you
what gets measured gets managed is one of them.
that's right, spot on. That's
Yeah.
that's what I was looking for. So,
Right.
and that really enabled us to budget, save, and we
Hmm.
built up the deposit for our first house by
Nice.
working that through. So
Yeah, I'm very good. I love the quantified self movement. I track all my health metrics. I track my budget. I have a You Need a Budget app or Notion. I use both of them to kind of track every penny. I'm really good at collecting data. I'm terrible at parsing it out and actually like looking at it. Like I like just collecting it, but I never like go back at the month and like, oh, I spent this much on this category because it all kind of works out. But I should be better about setting a specific time to review the budget and be like, what are the trends? I just like collecting the data. I think it's
yeah,
fun. I'm a numbers
but
guy.
and look, it doesn't need to be anything overly analytical. It's just
Right.
just get the data, and you might do it quarterly. You might say, I actually spent $1,000
Mhm.
on Apple, Apple Music
Right.
or books or whatever. I'm like,
Or
do I really want to
Vegemite.
spend a or
Yeah.
Vegemite? That's it. Hey,
$1,000. That's a light budget. Yeah.
that's a light budget. That's exactly right. Um, it's just as you said, it's tracking the trends,
Hmm.
and are you spending too much in some place, and just bring it
Hmm.
back. So
Right. Very
you
important.
know,
Very important.
cocaine habit, stuff like that.
Sure. You got to
It's
know these things. You got to know these things
yeah.
ahead of time. Yeah. Let's kind of wrap up the show with the way I always end. But if you could ask a stranger any question in the world, nothing was too superficial or too deep, what would you ask and what would you want to know about your fellow human?
What's the biggest regret you've got, and how are
Hmm.
you going to change it?
Very good. Very good question. Biggest regret. I'll try to think on the spot here. I don't know. I feel like in my 20s, I didn't maybe date around maybe enough. So just trying to put myself out there romantically would have been a little better just for learning experiences. That's one that comes to mind. I guess a lot of fear of rejection was probably
Yep.
big for me. Growing up as a kid, that kind of thing. So what was the second part of it? And
How would you change it?
how would you change it? I think just the mindset shift, like you kind of talked to similarly, is what if I ask that girl out and we have an awesome first date or something? Like what
Yep.
I'm only going to be when I was in Australia, I'm only going to be 23 years old and in Sydney, Australia, probably once, right? It's literally
Yep.
only the time I'm going to be there. So why not just have a fun time, instead of being so shy about who you meet or just putting yourself out there. So maybe this podcast was a product of trying to be more extroverted. Initially, I do kind of field interviews and as a way to approach women or talk to people and learn how to talk to anybody. I think is a major life skill. So um, that's a big one that I think I finally kind of started becoming better at. But yeah, the regrets are the big ones, and I think that's a great question because you can really quickly kind of get to the meaningful level of conversation with somebody just knowing what their one or two biggest regrets or, things that they didn't
It,
necessarily think
yeah,
about.
and you see all those articles about the seven regrets of people on their deathbed and the like, and
Hmm.
it's never. I wish I hadn't asked that girl out in 1952 and got a
Right.
rejection. It's always the stuff that people didn't do, as you
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, isn't it? So
Yeah, just having that mindset alone, I think is so important. But well, that was the show. That was a full on about 40 minutes, up to the max there. Is there anything you want to plug or anything that you have final words for me or the audience or whoever?
no, no, nothing to plug as yet. Had a fantastic time, Tyler.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So I really enjoyed it. My my favorite topic is myself, so I can always talk about myself.
That's
So.
what I'm saying. This podcast is an easy sell. Hey, do you want to talk
Exactly.
about yourself for 40 minutes?
Oh, that
Let's do
sounds
it.
like a great. Oh, sign me up. Sign me up.
Sign me up. Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to visit Jeremyville at some point in my life.
Uh,
Once it's ultimately a thing, let me know, okay?
next time you make it to Australia, come down to Melbourne, coffee capital, cultural capital, best city in Australia.
Yeah.
That I'll do the plug for Melbourne. I will
Okay.
buy you a I'll buy you a magic coffee. That's a thing.
Nice.
It's a very Melburnian thing. And I'll show you the wonderful city that Melbourne is.
Awesome. We'll consider that happening at some point. Yes, I'll show up tomorrow. Yeah. Do
Beautiful,
it.
done. Absolutely.
Oh man. Well, thanks again to everybody out there listening. I thank you for your support. This is Tyler telling you to go talk to a stranger. Peace.